What's going on, Grace? What's going on, Lobo? Get started here just shortly, guys. I gotta say, today was kind of whack day. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. There wasn't too much about today that was even remotely exciting about today's price action. Was there money to be made? There's always money to be made somewhere in the market. But today was one of those days where it kind of felt like it was really more so a day that you find yourself more easily able to lose money than to make money in today's price action. But nonetheless, it's a new start. As you see in the topic, realizing that it's pretty much a new month. June has just started for us, so it's pretty much a spot right now, though, in the market where I can't even favor one side direction of the market. Obviously, my gut feeling always being, wanting to have that bull mentality, right? Just because of how much we've already gotten slaughtered. I want to say that there's more upside in this market, that I would expect that we should have some more upside. There's not really any panic right now. The only panic that we probably saw today was just that little Facebook drop that we had that got kind of bought up back for the most part. There was no real continuation to it. But over and all, again, welcome in, guys. Pretty much didn't get to everyone, but welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Um, Today's price action again, I didn't see anything that said that I really wanted to be in a specific trade for more than I should have been. And when I say for longer than I should have been, is that I should have been out by like what 20% profit. There was no trade that I wanted to hold longer per se than that. Just given this kind of disgusting price action that we had. You had that early on drop, and of course you had the nice curling bottom, but a lot of names just gave you a lot of chop, a lot of up and down movement, which your premiums would have got destroyed unless you were basically in the money. So that's something. In the other headlines, you had Amazon. We're continuing the rally here, going right into that stock split. We saw the sell to open orders on the flow alerts. I know Mamba tagged me one in late in the day. We had another one early on in the morning, and those are relatively bearish. But does that mean that the stock necessarily has to go down just because they sell? No, not necessarily. It's just that I think they know what their risk reward is. Granted, the fact that the stock's already up, what, near $300 from the bottom. I think it's just, taking profits is what I would say. And that's because I do think that there is still more upside, and I will get to that Amazon chart just shortly. But that's something that kind of caught my attention. The other thing that caught my attention today on the flow alerts was pretty much the hard pressing spy short that I saw. Actually, no, it was the Qs. They were hitting basically the QQQ shorts was the 280 strike on the Qs for between June 3rd this week up until June 7th. No, I take that back. My bad. If I recall, no, it was July. They hit it for July 15th was the expiration relatively, and then July, the first week in July is what they hit on that. But that was for the Qs, and the strike was 280, but they were just relentless. I think that all added up to way more than over $1 million in premium when we saw that. So that was something that me and Avery kept looking at. We were just astonished by because they just kept rolling in separate orders. And the thing that you actually saw about that was that they did it through the minor flow basically, where it was like level one to twos, but they were $100,000, $200,000 orders just going in repeatedly back to back. Like someone was just pretty much doing separate orders, trying to stay low key. So that was something that was very pretty much intriguing to me, other than just Amazon continuing its rally into its stock split. But I think that was really the highlight of the day, other than the Facebook news that pretty much closed out the market. All right. Other than that, though, I didn't have anything in particular that's on my watch list. I did do something in favor to you guys. I did drop quite a bit of charts, though, that were pretty much in the ideas channel. Hopefully, you guys were able to pretty much get into the ideas channel and take a look at that. Just randomly off the top of my head, I did IBM in there. I think Home Depot's in that channel as well. Crossing my mind is just trying to go think off the top of my head. Um, no, yeah, I think that's the only two that really crossed my mind. But I have about five or six charts that I dropped in the ideas channel, so definitely take a look at that. Of course, I think most of those favor the bull side right now, just because of the setup. And one of my favorite patterns that I've seen, I want to say in relatively about maybe three to four of those charts, was a descending broadening wedge action, as you pretty much see I have also on SPY right now. So that's why I am leaning a little bit more bullish Not that I'm heavily no swayed to either direction because that's why I'm kind of staying neutral in cash overnight, just taking it day by day right now. And just because it's a short week, I feel like we're just literally just getting chopped up right now. We already had what was basically our entire exaggerated move of that reversal for last week, and now we're kind of just getting put in what feels like a box. Now, you could say this is maybe a little bit of a diamond top kind of action that we may be building. Probably tomorrow will likely tell us if this is maybe some kind of diamond top action or a rounding top that we're getting. That's what I'm kind of feeling right now is I want to get a feel for, and that's why I prefer to stay cash to see if they kind of just stick us in this chop zone again and just giving us a curling top, or they give us a diamond top that maybe sends us back down. But other than that, kind of just piggybacking off of the levels that I was watching yesterday, personally, I still expect us to break this 416 level. We break north of 416. I still have the anchored VWAP that sits from our March 29th high. That's at that 420 spot. And above that, I was still pretty much targeting 426 was my overall target before we get the reversal right back to the downside by the end of the month here. That's pretty much what I have game plan for. That was my hindsight and what I was pretty much expecting. We break the 416, we see 420, and then 426 is that level that I'm watching for the reversal right back to the downside. So that's why you're going to continue to likely see a lot of puts being put on. I think that we're getting close enough to where we're going to get a reversal back down. It's just that, or the other part of that scenario is you also have to think about this is that maybe they are hedging. So that's where it comes a little bit more complicated. That's why I don't particularly like the spot. I want to see if we break that 416 because if we end up breaking that 416 spot here and we can make a new high from basically yesterday's price action, that's going to kind of tell me that a lot of those puts that they've been putting on all day today as we continue to bleed were more so hedges. And that's what I'm going to wait for. Just like I usually say about dark pool, right? Dark pool, you usually get a spot level on the dark pool, whether it's a buy or a sell. You usually wait to see it's above or below a level to sell if it's a buy or sell order. Kind of the same scenario. I want to see if those puts actually get wasted if we break SPY over 416, and that's going to tell me those are hedges. If we don't break over the 416 to pretty much get towards that anchor VWAP, then okay, I'm going to pretty much be inclined to say that a lot of those premiums that got put onto those puts are likely going to end up paying out and they're pretty much trying to call top. All right. So that's pretty much what I just want to say. Level to the downside is pretty much very key for me was that 404 level. I think that's really the level where it's kind of your hit or miss. We can come down to 404 and likely still see a nice little reversal. But if we end up losing 404, you can literally just put us at 396, and then all the numbers between in the 380s will likely start pouring in. All right. So that's pretty much just kind of keeping it simple right now. I definitely did not like today's price action. Just looking at my watch list off to the right corner, I didn't see anything here. Everything looks relatively flat to like range bound. That, like I said earlier, it ate up a lot of premium. If you were not disciplined, you did not take your 10 to 20%. And that's kind of what I didn't like about yesterday and today's price action. Kind of felt like you're putting me in a box here where I have to go in the money and I'm being really forced to take that 20% right now, right? That's where that discipline comes in. All right. But that's pretty much my levels for SPY. Getting in real quick because I know that obviously Amazon's on everyone's watch list, everyone's mind right now, and I mentioned earlier that we saw the sell calls that we had on the flow alerts, and that pretty much displayed that it was a bearish move by whoever triggered that, right? But I actually still have this coming up towards 26, 25, 21 is the level that I'm watching. That's where I pretty much have my target set as. I want to see this pretty much break over this 24.76 mark. We cracked 24.76, and that's where I'm going to be looking to play the upside in grabbing 2,500 calls. But they were relentless again on the Amazon calls. I still saw Amazon calls coming through the minor flow left and right. 2,500 to 2,520. They just repeatedly went almost all day. But a lot of those people that pretty much bought, if you want to say what, if you buy in the low 2,200s, right? You would think at this point in time, those that are pretty much greedy or they're holding since 2,200, a lot of those people are selling. And that's what I kind of got the idea of on those sell orders that we had that are $1 million orders. It looks like they're likely just taking their profits and taking it off the books, trying to lock in those gains because, like I said, we're in a peculiar spot right now where it's kind of forces you to be neutral and just play it level by level because we can pretty much, as we rejected the 416 spot, we can pretty much come right back down even as low as that 404, or we can reclaim the 416 spot and go higher. So it's a peculiar spot. If I literally were those buyers that had those $1 million orders on Amazon, I would definitely be taking my profits here as well because now you're looking at it from a standpoint where you're almost at the finish line. Your risk to reward ratio is a lot more minimal. So that's kind of what I got, my interpretation of what I got from those sell orders that were about $1 million to $2 million. And that's what I was basically looking at. But 25.21 is still my target. Otherwise, once we end up breaking back below 2400 or 2401 particular, I think that's where it's gonna get bloody, and we're gonna end up seeing probably about $100 down on this pretty quickly. I got a message. Who messaged me here? Ooh, Chewy. All right, so this is actually a good one. Jay actually reminded me, so we could take a look at pretty much the earnings. Chewy actually reported earnings. This is one that I actually love trading this stock. What a beaut this one is. Up $16 now, 25%. That is actually pretty large for how much the stock has already been trading at now. That is a pretty large move, I gotta say. Up $6 right now. Now where can we get for continuation on this one? That's what's gonna be the big key right now. Let's see if I go to the weekly on this. Take a look at the weekly. I think the weekly will likely give us a bigger picture. So where was our breakout point particular? Before we ended up having such a bull run, I think it's right around here. And I will change the color. We'll drop it in orange. No, I'll put it in yellow. It's brighter. So this will be where I would particularly look to target here. You're looking at about $32 is your upside target. Unfortunately, you are very close enough to that, about what, $2.50 away from that. But as you can see, that was your breakout point from that March 2020 level, from that COVID low, basically, that we ended up breaking out before we literally just hit with a launch pad from that 32, taking out highs of what 120 that we hit. So that would be the level that I would say is going to be practically a hard resistance is that 32 level. Above the 32 level, the level that I would particularly be looking at would be right around here, right around this 37 spot. So that's going to be a pretty big gap between that 32 up until 37. But we have to break 32. If we can't even crack 32 here, then 37 will not likely not even make its way there. All right. But that's where I would be looking at because that's the next level of what I want to say is your resistance from since IPO, a level of breakout retest, and then a level where you had distribution between basically January of this year up until April. You had that little bit of distribution. It tried to act as a support level before you flushed to make a new low. All right. So that's what I would say. 32 and 37 is your big levels that you're watching on Chewy. And as you see, it's kind of regressing, so maybe this might not even hold for that matter. But that's Chewy. I think the other one that's reporting is also GameStop. GameStop's up what? It's not even barely up right now. It's up what, $4 or $5. I don't think there's anything here that really stands out to me. If I'm being honest with you, GameStop is kind of like that AMC where there's levels obviously, but there's nothing here that says that I really want to be a part of this. But if I really had to give you that level that I was particularly watching, I think you want to see this crack over 148. That's that big level for it to go crazy. But other than that, if I had to dive down into like smaller time frames, if I literally have to probably dive into like the 30-minute right now, dude, that's not even a good time frame. I back that up. It's just disgusting price action. Um, let's see the level I'm watching. Damn, some heavy resistance around this 130 level. That's gonna be a big level to get over. Level I'll be watching though will be 142 half. Yeah, 142 half seems like that level. You have that 142 that acted as a little bit of a distribution. See if I get it back. Uh, there we go. Draw the line. So 142 will be that level. Obviously, if you see off to the right here, you notice that you had this nice little sideways chop, which basically was your distribution between April 7th up until April 21st of this year. That was all your distribution before you basically ended up flushing to make a low here on May 12th. So that would be the level that I would basically act to be resistance. So 142 would be your upside target here, as long as this can break and hold over 130. All right, and that's how I would look to play it. So you crack over 130, I would likely look for 140 calls and take that into the money, in which you should go right into the money once you hit that 142 half spot. All right, and that's how I would look go about going into that. Other than that, I don't know if there's anything that you guys had in particular, any names that you're maybe holding a position, or you wanted to look at, and I will take a look at that. Mamba undead, Jimmy's undead right now. That's funny. Other than that, I know the Facebook one that was kind of a little bit of a surprise into the end of the day. Someone made a comment. I just saw it on the watch list. I'm like, wow, what a dump that was. But we basically saw the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook. They basically stepped down. They already had a replacement in line, so maybe that's why the stock ended up recovering as much as it did into the end of the day, which was a little bit surprising. But I don't particularly like the chart too much off of that price action that we just got there today. You could maybe make a case for somewhat of a head and shoulders action here that gave that dump off today. That just was not pretty. But if I was looking to see it to say remain what neutral to bullish, this needs to defend 188 here. I want to say to be more specific, 188.91 would need to hold here. If that can hold, then I need to see this basically reclaim over 194, and that'll be where your breakout will potentially be looking for. All right. So that would be for Facebook. I think it'll be left to be seen by morning. I'm sure it's probably going to be a headline on CNBC tomorrow that they're going to be talking about Facebook. So let's see how the reaction is, and if we have any kind of analyst upgrades that are on the back end of that. Paris, you want to take a look at Tesla? I know Tesla's been kind of brutal the past 2 days. I believe I gave out the levels today a little bit earlier on to pretty much be on the lookout. And they actually both smacked. I think one was 746, and then I had my other level trading down to about 739 ish. I think I said. But this price action is a little bit kind of disgusting if I'm being honest. You pretty much rejected right off of my resistance spot now. 746 is my resistance. I want to see this reclaim 746. If you reclaim 746, that's the spot where I would particularly tell you to try and go long on it. Obviously with a stop loss. But 746 was the big key level that I had. Otherwise, if you're looking for your bearish play on this one, then you're basically looking for this to crack under the 737, and you pretty much want to take out this low that you had from today of 730. So that's how I would go about that. You be bearish under 735 here. Under 735, you're going to be bearish, and above 746, I would remain bullish, and that's how you play the upside. All right. The only thing I would caution about though is kind of be cognizant of the fact that yesterday was a little bit of a chop. Today was chop. It is a relatively a short week. Just be mindful of that in terms of your position sizes, especially. Kind of be mindful of that and keep your stops in place so that way you don't get chopped up and your premium doesn't get chopped up. All right. But that's Tesla. Someone mentioned CYBN. Renee, let's take a look. I have not looked at this ticker at all. Health technology. This is an interesting one. A penny stock. Okay, that makes it a lot more interesting. I have not looked at penny stocks in a while. All right, so let's see. First things first. Let's see if we have a pretty much a well-defined downtrend. That's pretty much usually the first thing I take a look at. See if we have a downtrend resistance. So we do have our downtrend resistance. Good thing is that we actually broke it. So that's a good thing. You had a beautiful retest. Now, what would be the level that I say that I want to see you pretty much break over? It will be right around here, that level that I want to see you break over to pretty much stay long and be long. You would basically want to break over, what is this, roughly around 81 cents. So over 81 cents would be where your breakout's going to take place. As long as you can pretty much defend the 60 mark, I think you can roughly stay in this trade, Renee. But so 60 would be pretty much your support right now, and your full-on breakout would be over 81 cents on CYBN. All right. But I don't mind this one. Biggest reason is because it broke the downtrend. That's pretty much why I would say that. If it hadn't broken the downtrend, I likely would have said stay away from it. But I like it because it broke the downtrend, and you have a defined well support level at that 60 cent mark, and your full on breakout would be over 81. All right. So that's one I do like. That was a good pickup on that one. The other one you mentioned was NCLH, Norwegian. This one might be a little more tough. I will say that. Let me see the weekly just to give a bigger picture. This is quite the chart right now. I want to say this thing is making one hell of a falling wedge right now. Yeah, that is one hell of a falling wedge this thing is trying to make. But that's particularly off of your weekly. Let's see if I can get this aligned. Eh, not particularly. So here's one thing. If you're really looking for that ultimate risk reward, which you may have passed it for right now, but if you notice these 3 wicks off of the weeklies right here, March 22nd, then you have March 7th of this year, and then again you have May 23rd. Those are pretty much, you notice that you have that all wick, that same trendline support level. That's something that's pretty much noticeable. And then what I also do see is that you have, I want to say, a little bit of a well-defined downtrend resistance as well off of the weekly. So this falling wedge action is kind of coming into shape right now. Do I think it's in the mode of breaking out just yet? No, I don't. I think you have a little bit more. You probably won't see this wedge kind of close in until maybe, I want to say, August, September. And hopefully it kind of trends towards this resistance line. And that $20 mark at that time will likely be the biggest thing. If I were to tell you, how you would want to go long on this one, my ideal level would be to pretty much try and get this under that $15 mark, roughly around that 1480-ish mark. And then obviously, your well-defined stop loss right at this trendline support at the $13 level. That's how I would go about playing it. Of course, the biggest thing I would want to say is you want to make sure you have time in your side, get a far expiration on this one, and that would be how I would go about playing it. All right. So roughly around 1480 would be my entry point. Stop loss would be $13 on this one. And of course, it would be a tighter stop loss if you are doing options rather than shares. And I only say that obviously because of how cheap this premium is. It's only a $15 stock. All right. And that's how I would go about that one. All right. But other than that, kind of short and sweet again today. I know yesterday was kind of the same thing, but not too much noise on a short week. Not too much that kind of gives me a lot of attention right now that I want to say, we're gonna go either direction. I still had overall PTs like Apple 153.5 was still my overall PT. It's gonna be remain to see if it can actually maintain that 147.5 level and continue to grind higher. The semis are on watch. I know Avery had Nvidia on watch. I'm pretty big on AMD this week. I think my overall PT on AMD for the week was 110. I had that on the newsletter. So that's one that I'm watching it as well. So semis are on high watch for me, along with Apple as well. So that's pretty much, I want to say, was built around my watch just going into tomorrow, just keeping it small. AMD, Apple, and then Nvidia is also on the back end of my watch list. So those are three I'm kind of just on back end on my fallback to right now. Until tomorrow morning, pretty much gives me to see if we have more chop or we actually have a more definitive kind of trend day. I'm gonna remain kind of just neutral, just playing it level by level and being very selective in what tickers I play and how long I actually hold my positions, which is the biggest key I've learned these past 2 days. All right. So, other than that, I'll kind of keep it short and sweet there. Hopefully I was able to help you out there, Renee and Paris. But other than that, I'll leave it as is. I'll see you guys on live tomorrow morning. Call it short and sweet right here. Appreciate you guys joining me as always. But later, guys. I'll see you in the morning.